If you're serious about blogging for income, then we need to talk about categories and tags. They're very important for your site structure, so it helps search engines understand what your site is about and deliver your content to readers when they're looking for it. So let's talk about what categories and tags are, how they work, what they can and cannot do, and then more importantly, talk about how it will help you grow your traffic and your income. And we're going to take you behind the scenes as well. So we're going to provide some back-end examples on setting it up on your WordPress blog. As always, I have some notes to help me stay square, and I really want you to think about categories as broad overarching topics. This is really what your blog is about. So think about your main categories. So for example, if you run a food blog, a top level category could be kitchen equipment. Another one could be meal planning. Now under meal planning, you could have recipes, because the thing about categories is that it's hierarchical. So you can create hierarchies. You can have a main category, meal planning, then you could have recipes, then you can have breakfast. Now we're going to talk more later on about how many categories you should have and how you should structure your site. But for now, just know categories, you can create hierarchies, but with tags, you cannot. Tags, on the other hand, are more about specific details. So maybe think about keywords. But also going back to your food blog, you can also use them for maybe ingredients, lesser used ingredients, but also commonly used ingredients. And as you build your blog and you have more content, tags can also be helpful from an organizational point of view, but it can also help you create a recipe index in future as well. So think of it as your blog's file cabinet. Now, categories can also be helpful with your site's navigation. Now, we'll get into more technical details later about how you should structure your website and your links with these categories, but just know that categories help with that as well. And from an SEO point of view, they really help to optimize your site. So Fran is going to tell you all about how SEO can really affect your site structure and its importance for you to getting monetized.
Like Victoria said before, categories are very important when it comes to SEO, especially because it's going to signal what are the main topics in your blog. So search engines will actually be able to understand what you're mainly blogging about. We always recommend that you're going to start with a few categories, so you're not going to spread yourself too thin, and you can always increase that later as you have more traffic and more content. But you want to make sure that you are very concise with what you're talking about at first so that you are getting the most traffic around that topic. So basically, categories will give your site the clear structure that the search engine needs to understand what everything is. And whenever you create a blog post, it must be in at least one category in order for that blog post to be recognized by search engines as part of that category and keyword. Now, also, it's helpful from a user perspective because the categories show up in the breadcrumbs, and you do need to have these visible on the blog post so that if somebody likes that topic, they can always trace back through the breadcrumb and go back to the category if they want more content for that topic. It's important that a user is able to navigate through your site back and forth at any point, and categories will help you with that. And continuing on an SEO perspective, categories will also help by natively providing an archive page of all of the posts that are available for that topic, and they will constantly be updated. So you don't have to do any of that update manually. It will always show the newest post that you add to that category. So it is regularly updated, evergreen content. Now, when your categories are providing more content related to a topic that a user wants to read about, that will also mean that they are staying on your site longer by browsing more posts in that category, which will then also result in more income from them staying on your site longer. So this is all working together from traffic coming in and then from them staying on, which will then translate into more money in your pocket.
Now, here's the thing. While categories and tags sound amazing to help you stay organized on the back end and very helpful to readers on the front end of your site, be careful not to over categorize. Having too many high level categories can really confuse not just readers, but more importantly, search engines in trying to understand what your site is about. I have to be honest and say, in the beginning, when I just started blogging, I really didn't understand what categories were about. I would have a willy-nilly category for every little thing. If I'm talking about shoes, I'm throwing in a shoe category. Food, I'm throwing in a category for that as well. I didn't even understand nesting and hierarchy. So of course, every cuisine of food had its own categories. Needless to say, it was a mess. So be careful not to over categorize. Your categories should be your main topic. So we don't want to dilute your site's focus. Another thing to be careful about is tags. So don't overuse tags, don't duplicate them, use singular and plural tags, for example, bread or breads. Just be careful not to overstuff your website and thinking you're getting organized, but instead you're really bloating your website and you'll have multiple archive pages which turn out to not be helpful at all. And especially in the age of AI and with all the Google updates, having helpful and navigable content is key.
Now, here's some of the best practices when you're just starting out in using categories and tags for your site and how you're designing your site structure. Now, the thing that I'm going to suggest you do first is take out a piece of paper and write all this out, map it out in a piece of paper. It'll be much easier. You're going to pick only 3 to 5 main categories, and that's what you're going to be working off of. If some of these 3 need some nested subcategories, you can do that. We do recommend that you don't go more than 3 deep on subcategories, so make sure you choose those wisely. And you also need to make sure that these are categories and subcategories that you are consistently posting content in. You don't want to have a category that ends up being dead without anything getting updated in months. You do need to use tags as well sparingly. And like Victoria said, tags are so easy that you end up creating new ones, especially if you're not careful as you're typing it in and waiting for the option that maybe you already have saved to load. And then you end up creating something else that is just spelled a little bit different. So be mindful and careful that you're not creating duplicates or that you're not misspelling and then having a bunch of tags that don't really make sense. Now, another thing that you can do is use tags for topics that you may want to then have a category on. This will help you have those posts organized for you on the back end so that the moment that you are ready to start making content that is more regular about that topic and you want to start ranking for that topic, you can simply go to the tag and then switch the category or add a category for all of those posts. You can just use them as an internal filing system as well. You don't always have to think of tags as a forward-facing thing.
So now that you know a bit about categories and tags and how to use them, let's go to the back end where we're logging into our WordPress blog and showing you some tips and tricks there. Now we're on the back end of WordPress. We're at the dashboard. Now we're going to add some categories. So we're navigating to post, and then you'll see the option to add a post, categories, and tags. But today we're working on categories, so we click categories. As you can see, there's an uncategorized category here. This is by default. And instead, we're going to put our attention over here to the actual category we want to add. So we're working with our Victoria Bakes blog. So for this one, some of our categories are going to reflect what we're baking and the recipes, but we're also going to include lifestyle categories as well. So the first category we're going to include is cakes. So we're going to type cakes in there. The slug is where you can make modifications to the URL for your category. You can leave it as cakes, which will automatically be applied. We will not be selecting category because this will be category. And then we're going to go on to description. So I have something pre-written here. I've just copied it here. And then we're going to add category. Now that the category has been created for cakes, we are going into edit to optimize it for SEO. Now, once you've clicked edit, you'll see everything you've inputted thus far. You'll see the name cakes. The URL slug is also cakes. We have no parent category because this is a main category or description. But if you scroll down, you will have SEO. Now, this is the SEO plugin we installed on the back end. So now we're going to add some details here to help further optimize it for SEO. So for our focus key phrase, we can input cake recipes because that is what I intend to share in this category. Again, the URL is set, but now we're going to add a meta description. So I've pre-written something that says discover easy cake recipes from scratch. So as you can see, I have organically used the key phrase cake recipes. You will also notice that now we have a smiley face for the SEO button as well as the readability button. I highly recommend that when you are updating your categories in this case, but also blog posts, which we will show you in a separate video, you try to get as many green smiley faces as you can. Now, for further details, you can click this button here for SEO analysis. This will help you stay on track. As you can see, it highlights some of the problems or keyword and or meta description and or text have. It shows areas that are okay, which means room for improvement. But then these are the things we have done well. These are the good results. Now, you might be wondering, how can we fix some of the problems and improve on the things that require improvement? So the improvements are usually super easy. So as you can see here, the meta description length, it is over 156 characters. So we can go back here and we can read and make or edit. For example, we could completely remove this bit here. Every recipe is made with care and instead just end with from classic favorites to new bakes. By doing that, as you can see, the bar here that was originally orange. So let me do that again. which indicates it's a tad bit long. Now it is green. So if we scroll down here, so as you can see here, we have improved the meta description length. It is now good to go. Another thing worth improving is the key phrase in slug. As you can see here, it says part of your key phrase does not appear in the slug. Change that. Now here's the thing, because this is a brand new blog, you can get away with changing your slug. So what they want us to do is ensure that cake recipes, which is a main goal for this category, is a part of the slug. So what you can do is copy that up there and edit it down here. Now what you do need to include is a dash in between the words. So now that we have this cake recipes, as we scroll down here, we can see right here that the key phrase is now in the slug. Now moving on to the problems, there are a few things we can fix. For example, key phrase in SEO title. Not all the words from your key phrase cake recipes appear in the SEO title. We also see that our key phrase does not appear in the first paragraph. So again, these are things we can revisit and improve. So now we're scrolling all the way to the top, and what it would like for us to do is have, instead of just cakes, instead we have cake recipes. Now, in our description, it would like us to use the same key phrase as well. So we can say from nostalgic family, cake recipes, and that should fix our problem. So now let's scroll down to see how we've done. As you can see, we still have one problem here, but let's click save to see what happens first. So now the categories have been updated. So we're scrolling back down and we are checking our SEO analysis again. And as you can see here, we're pretty good to go. So everything that was highlighted for us, we have fixed, from the improvements to the things that were marked as problems. Now, as you can see here, there is an option that is in the gray. This is for premium subscribers of Yoast. Now you do have button options here where you can upgrade, but because this is a new blog and you're just getting started, we don't recommend you updating and upgrading to premium right now, because the Yoast free option has enough to get you going and get you started. So let's just work with the free option for now. We are now going back to categories, and we will be doing the same thing for the other categories we are creating for this blog. So as you can see, all 5 main categories have been created. So for this blog, we'll be sharing cake recipes, cookie recipes as our main baking content. But because we're recommending you infuse yourself and things that you do personally and other hobbies that you're interested in as well, we have also created categories for crochet, journaling, and mental health. Because mental health is the one thread that ties everything together for this creator we have created for the purposes of creating this blog. So baking is a part of their mental health journey, sharing recipes with you, but they also enjoy journaling and doing crochet as well. So now that the categories have been created, Francesca will show you how to add some of these categories to your menu.
So to add the categories to your menu, you're going to Appearance and then Menus. The first menu that should open up automatically is your main primary menu, which, as you can see here, it currently has our Home and About, which is what we already set up. If it's not that, you can easily select a different menu from this drop down right here where it says select a menu to edit, and you can switch from the menu that you are seeing to the one that you want. Obviously, we want these in the main menu. And if you had to switch that, you would select main menu and click select, and it will refresh the page and show you the correct menu. Now we are grouping these categories into 2 main topics. One is recipes and one is lifestyle. And then there will be a drop down under each of those where people can select the different kinds of recipes or the lifestyle topics. So in order to do that, we will go to custom link. The link text in this example will be recipes. And for this particular thing, because we don't have anything to send them to when it is the recipes by itself, we're going to put a hashtag there where it says URL, and we will add that to the menu. And then we will do the same for lifestyle. And again, add to menu. So once we have those added, I will drag the about at the very bottom so that they will see first home, recipes, lifestyle, and then they will see about. In order to do that, it is a simple drag and drop. You take the about page and you're going to drag that all the way down. Now, as you can see, sometimes it will indent it. So that means that that is a sub link. So make sure that it is right under the box. And now those are your 4 main links on the menu. Now we're going to add the categories to that, which, as you can see, there is a categories section on your left-hand side right here. So we're going to open that up, go to view all, and you're going to see all your categories that we've just created in here. You can simply check the boxes for everything you want to add. So I'm going to check everything and leave the uncategorized, and then click add to menu. Now they are all added as main. We don't want it like that. So we're just going to, again, just drag and drop them where we want. So for example, the cake recipes should go under recipes. So we're going to drag that in, and we're going to make sure now that this one is indented. So as we said before with the about, that you wanted to make sure it was all the way over, this one needs to be indented. And we're going to do the same for cookie recipes. Make sure it's not indented under cake. It is just right under cakes. And we will do the same for the lifestyle, crochet, journaling, and mental health. So now we have the main links as home, recipes, lifestyle, and about. And under recipes, there will be a submenu for cake recipes and cookie recipes. And under lifestyle, there will be a submenu for crochet, journaling, and mental health. You will simply scroll down and click Save Menu. Now your menu is completely done, and we can go to your live site by clicking at the very top on the top bar where it says Victoria Bakes, or the name of your site. Obviously, if you hover over that, it will have a link that says Visit Site. We will click on that, and now we see the full site again. As you can see now, the menu says Home. Then it has recipes with a drop-down menu for cake recipes and cookie recipes, lifestyle, which then says crochet, journaling, and mental health, and about as well. So we are now completely done with having the categories set up, optimized, and in your menu as well.
Now that you've set up your categories, now is a great time to start your very first blog post. So in our next video, we are going to walk through setting up your very first blog post, doing the image optimization. We're going to be talking about headings and just making everything search engine ready. But not just Google search engine, we're thinking about social media, YouTube, and just all the avenues where you can learn and discover what people are looking for so that you can create content that is true to you and authentic to your brand. So click over, watch the next video, and we'll talk to you soon.